Okay, so we are back. Apologies if you were following on the last video, the beginner bash video. Had a bit of a layer 8 issue towards the end there. So the last 30 seconds, I cut the stream by accident. I'd pretty much finished there anyway. I wasn't really going to go much more into any of those sort of beginner examples. However, we are now ready for part 2. This is going to be a more intermediary look at Bash. So if you're not familiar with the basics, you might want to check the other video. I have actually contacted my editor who's doing all my editing on the last videos, and he's going to put a screen up at the end for just to explain that why it cut so short. And he's also given me another video, so I haven't got to tell you to subscribe anymore. Okay, so now we're back at the VS Code, and I want to give you some examples now of some intermediate Bash. I've cleared out the script and we're kind of back to where we were at the start of the beginner Bash video. I'm just going to clear out everything, so I'm just going to do history clear, so clear out the history, Control L to clear the terminal. And I don't even really, in fact, actually, we could just take this greet function back out the lib folder file. Again, close that down, we don't need it. I can just put it back in here, and this would be an okay start for some of the next bits that I want to talk about. So, in the last video, the beginner video, we had a look at the set commands, and I showed you about set with a -e option. And if you recall, the set with the -e option throws an error and it stops the script on the first error. So Bash is quite forgiving. So if we didn't have the set E option or the set -e option and Bash incurred an error, it would just keep going. So it's quite forgiving, Bash is. So the set -e is quite good when you want to debug. But I alluded to additional things that you can use with the set command. Let me actually start a new line, and I'm going to show you some more things that you can do with the set command. So the next one I want to look at is set with the -x. So the set with the -x, I refer to this as a sort of stack trace. I don't know if it's got a particular name, but like I always call it a stack trace. It lets you know exactly what Bash is doing, what's it's running. It lets you know what the variables and outputs are. So let's just run a script. Let's make this work. So let's just call the greet function, and we'll pass in John Doe. In fact, actually, what I'll do, I'm gonna look at the -u option as well in a minute. So let's just make a name function here, John Doe. We'll pass in name. Now this is only going to say hello John, and I'll explain why in a minute. And this will bring us perfectly onto the next set of examples. So I just cleared out my terminal tonight. Okay, so I'm going to run this script. This script now with the -x is going to give us a little bit more insight. It's going to give us a little bit more like a stack trace of what's going on inside the script. Okay, so let's break this down line by line. So any line you see with the plus symbol in front of it is coming from the -x. The -x up here is basically outputting this information to help us debug our scripts. And anytime Bash does something inside the script, you'll see a plus here interpreting what it is that Bash is doing, or what the command is, or what the variable equates to. So it's like a stack trace for Bash, and it can be really helpful. And I'm going to leave it on while we go through some of these future samples, just so you can get an idea of what this set X is doing for us. And just remember, the set E is going to make sure that whenever we get an error, the script's going to stop running. So if we commented out the set E and there was an error, normally the script will keep running. Now the next one we're going to look at is the -u. So if I just type in set -u, not b.u, and we'll let this run. Now nothing's going to change at this moment in time, but the set -u, it basically stops the script from running when you get an undeclared, undefined variable, etc. So I'll give you an example of that now. So we're going to run the script normally, and you can see it runs. We've got this additional line now because this comes after the set dash x. Okay, so wherever you see the set dash x start, from then on you'll get the stack trace. If we move this up a line, so let's say we just remove this completely and we put this here, you'll now see there'll be an additional line below. You can see now it's also the declaration of the set E here is being shown. Okay, so if we use the dash U, anytime we use a variable, if it's not defined, normally bash will carry on running and bash won't care. But with the dash U, if any variable is ever not declared, it will throw an error and will stop the script. So if I uncomment, in fact, let me comment this first and then let me comment out this. Okay, so we've removed the name variable completely and we've commented out the set dash U. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to run the script, and you can see that nothing was passed to greet because this equated to nothing, and it echoed out absolutely nothing here. Okay, so there's nothing got passed into it, not even the John. Okay, so if I add down the dash set U into my script and run, you can see that when we got to line 10, because the name variable was not found and it's not been defined, we're going to get an error. So that's what the dash U option will do for us. Now I'm going to comment this out a second. In fact, I'm going to get rid of these a second. I'll put them back in when needed. I just want to make sure I've got a little bit more real estate. It's very frustrating, this is, because I've got such massive screens and monitors and I'm using such a small resolution. However, let's go. So now let me just run this script just so we've got a baseline output. So we've got hello John. Why have we got hello John? So what's happening here is the name variable is getting replaced with the value, okay, of John Doe. And the way bash works is any space on a line when passed to a function will separate these items out as separate individual variables being passed to that function. So if I was to go here and go, let's give an example first, and then let's say do a second line here. I'll put 2 here, put second there. If I run this script again, you can see now that the first variable is John and the second variable is Doe. So how would we get around passing this function a variable called name and get this to work as one variable? And the way we do that is with quoting. So if I run the script again, just to show you the script still runs as expected, first John, second Doe. If we were to quote around this variable, like so, what you'll now see is that first equals John Doe and second has absolutely nothing there. So by quoting the variable, we can pass it as one parameter, and as you can imagine, we can pass more parameters, 1, 2, 3, 4, and eventually you'll get to 9, and there's things we can do, and we'll look at that when we get to there. But just for now, just note that you'll need to quote any variables you pass to a function if they got spaces in them. Okay. The next thing I wanted to show you is error codes and return codes. So if I go to the command prompt here and I was to echo out this special variable, which is $question mark, you can see I've got 0. Now 0 means that the last command or the last piece of code ran successfully. So 0 is what we want to see, 0. Anything higher than a 0 typically defines an error. Now, error codes can vary from script to script or from program to program, but the common format is 0 is a success. Anything other than 0 is an error of sorts. So this is really good for us so we can trap this in our scripts. Now in the last video, I think I showed you the if conditionals, and I showed you about the square brackets and the double square brackets, and we'll go more into that as we progress. But what we can do is, so let's just go and add some lines here. And the reason I'm adding to this script is I want to give more to show you when I do the set x at the end of this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an ls l, and I'm going to do Etsy password. Okay, and then here I'm going to echo out $ with the question mark. Let's go down here, Control L, run the script, and you can see that this file was found. So this was an actual valid file in the system, and the code that we got returned was 0. So that's good. However, if this wasn't to exist, so let's just make something up like that. When I run this script again, you'll see that I actually get a 2. Now, like I said, 0 success, 0 means that it's worked. Anything other than a 0 means there's been an error. Okay, so how can we use this? So let me just adjust myself up a little bit. So if we were to wrap this now inside an if conditional, so let's do something like if, and then we use the square brackets, if you remember. So I'm just going to do square brackets like that. Now we looked at greater than in the last video. This one we're going to look at not equal. So if the return code does not equal 0, then we want to do something. So this will be the error, if you like. Else, let's finish off our if conditional with a phi. Else, everything worked well because it was 0. Okay, so this would be the equivalent of like echo success, and then this would be error. Now you could say at this point here, put the error code in there. So let's just run this. So you can see now, Bash is giving us an error anyway, but we've also now got error. Oh, right. So again, making mistakes live. So what we should actually do here is we should actually trap the error, because what it's saying here now is, yes, this bit here was an error. So this bit didn't run. This bit generated a 2. Okay. So when we get down to here, this equals 2, and 2 does not equal 0. However, the if conditional part itself, it did run. Bear with me. It did run. So this is now equal to 0. So what we should have done in this case here, if we wanted to print out the error, we don't have to. So let's just close that a second just to show you. So you can see now we've got error, and we've got that error message coming from Bash. What we could do, so if I go back to the start here now, we could run this in a sub-command shell, I guess. So let's just go error or status, let's say. Okay, because we don't know it's going to be an error yet, do we? So we could do something like this. Now let's run it. And you can see what have we done here. Oh, okay, so another problem live as well. Okay, so again, it's all good. So it's all good. Right, okay, so what's happened here, and this is perfect now actually, so we can use the -x to show this. This now is coming back with the actual ls cannot execute script. So in this subshell here, so let's just quickly grab that. So in this subshell here, we're actually getting that come back, and what we really want is that. Okay, so what we should have actually done is, again, this is all great debugging purpose. Okay, so if we do something like this, okay, we'll do that. I promise in future videos I'll probably write something down and have some notes, okay? Now, if we just do this, like that, this will now work, okay? So we're trapping the error code from the last command, and then we can reuse it down here again, okay? So, great stuff. Okay, so now we've got the error 2, and here we've got the ls cannot access, does not exist, okay? So we've trapped the return error code, and we've got the error code in an if conditional, giving us a message whether or not the file does or does not exist. We might not want to see the error message, or we might not want to see the file listing. Now there is better ways of checking for file exists, by the way, so don't think of using this to check if a file exists. But let's just say we didn't want to see the error message, we can redirect it, and we're going to look at redirection and basically sending the output of commands to dev null next. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a redirector, and we're going to redirect that to dev null. So now when I run this, what have I done now? Oh, of course, yeah. So, okay, so now we can see there's an error, and we can see there's an error code 2, but we don't see the actual error message of the file not existing because we've sent all of the output, and we'll look at standard in and standard output a little bit later in this video, maybe even the next video, but we've sent all the output to dev null, but we're still trapping that error code. Now, if the file does exist, so let's go back to that Etsy password file, like so. You can see now that the function, that the if conditional, sorry, does actually work. And if the file does exist, it doesn't need to print out an error code. Okay, so that's the next thing I was going to show you. Let's have a look now as well at doing some setter and getter functions and exporting variables on the command line. So we'll have a look at that now. So is my feed still okay? What's the time on the feed? Yeah, it's looking good. Okay, so down here, I'm going to export a variable, and we're going to call this one. Let's do name equals, and we'll just do a string like that. I'm going to do export. Let's do age equals, and let's do a string like that. Now we looked at functions before, so I'm going to do 4 functions: one to get the name, one to get the age, and then one to set the name, one to set the age. So watch us go. Function get name. There's 2 functions there to print out name and age. Now notice we're not passing anything into these, and that's why this is not a 1 or a 2. We're actually referencing this exported global variable. So now we come down here and we do function set name. Now here we would be passing a variable to it because we want to set the name. So we'd say name equals like that. When we look at the advanced bash stuff, we'll look at different syntaxes of defining functions. You don't have to define a function exactly how I'm defining a function. It's just easier for me, for the most part, if I'm honest with you, because what will happen in your career, as you start to learn more and more languages, like one of the biggest problems you get, the more languages you learn, is you get cross interference. So when you look at like PHP or PowerShell or Python and stuff, they all have very similar utilities, like if conditionals or while loops or methods or functions, and the programming concepts, they all share the same programming concepts, but they'll all have slightly different syntaxes. And sometimes, especially if you haven't, been working with a language for maybe a week or 2 weeks, and you've been working on another language, you can sometimes get like cross interference. I think that's happening to me a little bit at the moment. However, I'm also going live. I've got a lot going on here. Okay, so bear with me. Okay, so I made 4 functions. One's to get age, one's to get the name, one's to set the name, one's to set the age. If I come down here now, if I was to do get name, and actually before I do all this, I'm going to leave this in because we'll have a look at it in detail after. I'm just going to comment that out a second, and you comment out with bash, with the bash symbol here. Grab the pound symbol there. I always call it the hash symbol. I suppose it depends if you're in America or the UK. If I said get name and get age, like that, these would actually come back empty because if you remember, we're setting them to empty strings. So if I do that, they're going to come back empty. Now, if below here, in fact, actually, what I'll do is I'll copy that. I'm just using the Control D there, just twice quick. I'm hoping I don't want to start using too many shortcuts on this video, but I'm just going to quickly go set name, set age, and here I'm going to do John, and here I'm going to do 30. I'm going to save that here, and then I'm going to run. Now you can see now, hopefully this is big enough. So now you can see I had a get name, get age, which come back with nothing. Then I set the name to John, and then I set the age to 30. Then I did a get name and get age again, and this time the values that I set to those 2 variables were retrieved, and that's why you've got 2 blank lines here. So I hope that bit makes sense to you. Okay, so that's how we get and set names and ages, or get and set values, I guess, using bash. The next thing we'll look at, so I'm just going to comment this out again. Hopefully this is all fitting on the screen okay. So the next thing we'll look at now is command substitution. Okay, so we kind of had a look at it before, but let's have a quick look at command substitution. So what we can do is we can have a value that we pass into. In fact, actually, let's use the date. So let's say current date, and we'll set that equal to, and we'll put in a $, brackets like that. So we looked at this before. Now, what this will do is it'll make sure that the command inside these brackets runs. Once they're finished running, it will then return the output to the variable. So in this case here, current date will equal date. So date as a command will run inside here. If we run date on the command line like so, you can see that's what date returns. So in this set of brackets, we're going to run this command and make it equal to this value here. We could then do echo current date like that. So we've almost done the same kind of thing again here. I'm just going to show you command substitution, and you can see now we've echoed out the current date. So that's command substitution for you. I think we talked a little bit about arithmetic in the first beginner video. It's a little bit different in bash when you're looking at arithmetic. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through probably I think we looked at counters, didn't we? Did the plus for the counter and the while loop in the last video. So I'm going to look at all the arithmetic options now. So if we go to the code, let's just comment this out like so, and let's do x and y. So x equals 10, y equals 5, and let's do a sum. Okay, so sum would be equal to both those numbers added together. Now, in the last video, I believe we did look at the counter. I think I told you that we have to have double brackets when we're doing any kind of like math or any kind of arithmetic operators in Bash. So if I do open bracket, close bracket, and because I want this to run and then get assigned to this variable, I need to also use the dollar here. So this is going to be sum. And then inside here, I can do x plus y. And then I can echo out. So if I echo out sum like this, you can see I've added those two numbers together. If I wanted to do a minus and take them away, it's literally how you'd expect. So I'm just going to do this and copy that. Paste these on a new line here. And then I'm just going to copy the sum. Now, this is just what I'm doing in VS Code. I'm just going to press Control D once. That'll go down to where it says sum again. I don't want to press it more than once because it'll start to loop the page. I'm just going to do minus. I'm pressing escape. And I'm just going to change the plus to a minus. And let's save that. Let's go down here and let's run our script again. And you can see now 10 take away 5 equals 5, which is what you'd expect. Okay, so what else could we do? We could do multiply. So let's do a multiply. So that's multiply. And as you'd expect, 10 multiplied by 5 or 5 multiplied by 10, same thing wherever you look at it. So that's multiplication. And we can use division as well. So let's just go for the holy 4. So holy 4, what am I about? Copy that. Do divide. And we can see there, we've got 2 at the end there as well. Okay, so we've done all the division. Let's have a look at some strings because we're going to also need some strings when we start to make our tools in the advanced video. So we looked at concatenating strings before. And concatenating strings really just involves taking multiple variables and then putting quotes around them. So let's go give an example of this. I'm just going to comment this out. The reason I'm commenting this out at the moment is I just want to make sure that we don't get too much output on the command because I've not got a massive area to work with. So if we go string 1, and that could be use our John example, and then got string 2 equals dough. Just make sure I can spell today. String 1, string 2, and then if I just do echo concatenated like so, you can see we've got John Doe. Now let's see if we can get some additional output from our strings. So if we wanted to find out what the length of our string was, we can do that. Now that's got a specific variable to it, and we can actually amend this value here to get the length if we wanted to. So what we would do is we would use the curly brackets like so. I hope the stream's coming through. I keep getting flickers to say it was reconnecting. And then I just put the pound symbol in here, like so. This is going to equal the length of the string. So if I just do that there, you can see now we've got a string of 8. And we have, so John space Doe, a string of 8. And we could even, if we wanted to, actually, I think I'll leave the string stuff there because I think I'll leave the actual advanced string manipulation when we look at the tools and we start doing stuff with word lists and stuff because it's such a big topic. So I don't want to do too much there. I think before we move on to the next video, the other thing I want to quickly show you as well is redirection. So we looked at redirection in a kind of way before, which was when we did the symbol like this to redirect into dev null. So that's would redirect. So if we had to do, I don't know, ls, and we did a redirect into, I don't know, some file like this, so file dot text, do that, let's just get rid of that. And then what we could do is we could do the cat file dot text. So you can see now we've done an ls and then we've catted it out. So if I look now on the command line, do a cat of file, you can see it's basically an output of ls, but in this case here, because it's got spaces in it, when we redirected it, they've been translated to new line breaks. I think that's probably enough for the intermediary video. I'm just thinking if there's anything else that I wanted to go through before. Yeah, okay, so there is probably one more thing that I will go through, and that is redirecting files. So this can be a bit of a weird one. So when you're redirecting files, let's say we've got a sort command here, we can actually use the arrow going the other way. So the greater than and less than symbols basically we use in these cases here. If we do this, like that, even though sort command starts to the left of the bash prompt, we can actually redirect a file into it, okay, by pointing towards the left. So we could do this, like that, and that would sort it. And then we could even do something like that and sort it in reverse. I think that's all I've got really in mind for this video, because I think when we start hitting the next videos, we're going to start to escalate quite quickly. So I hope everything I said there makes sense. I hope I'm explaining things well as I go. Thanks for bearing with me, guys, as well. I hope you feel like you're on this journey with me. This is like day 3 of using OBS and Stream Deck and everything and all the apparatus. It's only going to get better, okay? And I promise you, by the time we get to the next lessons, I'm actually going to have some written down material so I can actually go through it in a more structured way. But thanks for bearing with me. If you like what I'm doing, hit subscribe. If you don't like what I'm doing, tell me why you don't like it, and I'll try and see if I can do better. Okay, thanks very much, and take care.